Hello, everyone, and good morning. It's Michelle Mahara here again, and I'm here this morning with Heather Bain. Thank you so much, Heather, for giving me your time today to discuss the current environment that we're going through right now with COVID-19 and being in self-isolation and how we can keep a positive mindset and pivot our business. Heather, do you want to just let us know who you are and what you are all about?
Sure. Thank you, Michelle, for inviting me to have this conversation with you. I'm pretty excited about it. My name is Heather Bain. During the day, I am a behavioral teaching assistant. In the evenings, my side thing is I sell unique makeup. During the day, I have been a behavioral teaching assistant, and I did the math and figured it out, full-time and permanent for 24 years. So I am very accustomed to having a daily routine and get up, have a shower, have breakfast, get out the door, get to work, do my thing at school. And it's the same kind of thing day after day. And all of a sudden, I'm not at school anymore. So all of a sudden, I have had to relearn my routine. And I'm sure that there are parents and families out there who are also having to adjust and relearn their daily routine. They're struggling with the balance between them working if they're working from home and helping their children if they're school aged with online learning, or if they're younger than that, then they're just sort of monitoring their behavior and keeping them safe and healthy and fed. And so in my household, it's my husband and I and my adult son. So I don't have any small children at home to look after. However, I have experienced it because my daughter just had a baby boy he's just over a week old. He was born April the 4th.
Oh,
So I was looking after my grandsons. So I have three other grandsons, 18-year-old, and then 6 and almost 4-year-old. So routine at their house, and we went over and stayed, and routine at their house is they get up, they have breakfast, they play for a while. We did some the oldest one is in senior kindergarten, and so we practiced printing and we did hand over hand. And the little dude, my younger one, just played on his iPad or was playing with Lego. And occasionally I would say, "What are you building? Tell me about it. How does it work?" Trying to extend his play and making and asking his thought processes, and how does this work, and what are you going to do with it next, and have you tried? So you can ask all of these questions to sort of extend their play. When I'm at school, I like to read a story and then give the kids an activity, but it has a bit of a challenge built in. And so for instance, if I was talking about being cooperative, one of the stories that I really like to read is called Moose by Robert Munsch. And if you can find it online, it's a funny story. And it's all about this moose that keeps coming to the house. And the family have to work together to get this moose to leave the backyard. And afterwards, I give the kids a whole bunch of straws and connectors. Not everybody has straws and connectors at home. A lot of families have Lego or blocks or something they can build with. And so my challenge to the kids was, you have to build a structure. It can either to be enclosed the backyard and keep the moose out, or you can put the moose in the middle of it and it keeps the moose in. But it keeps the moose from going into the house. And they all start out with a little bit, and they pair up. And I say, okay, think about how you can build the biggest, tallest structure that you can get, and I will reward you if you figure out a way to do it. And for the kids who work together and then run them out of material, I kind of give them some prompts. Well, what else can you do? And eventually the kids figure out, with a little bit of prompting, some kids are more social than others and they get it right away. They figure out if they join their structure with the next person's structure, then I'm going to reward them and give them more building materials. And it catches on like wildfire. It's a really cool lesson to see in action. And you can do the same type of thing at home. It's a cooperation is a learned skill. A lot of the social skills, people think people just pick up. No, they have to. Sometimes people need children need extra help. They need to be taught. And they also need to learn something called self-regulation. And at school, I use a program called self-regulation, zones of regulation on a regular basis. It is based on a program written by, hang on, I gotta find the name because I wrote it here. Leah Kuipers. You can actually Google it. There are a lot of Pinterest activities and stuff you can print at home. There are, and I'm going to show you these are the zones of regulation colors. So blue, it's all about feelings to do with your, how your body makes you feel. You're tired, you're hungry, you're bored, you hurt yourself, you're itchy. Like these are all how your body affects your feelings. When you're in the green zone, life is good. You're a good listener. Everything, you are happy. You're relaxed. You're ready to learn. When you're in the yellow zone, this is when things are starting to get a wee bit frustrating, and you might feel your body changing. You might feel you're starting to get frustrated and angry. And in the red zone, that's where you see some acting out behavior, pushing, shoving, yelling, not kind words, that kind of thing. So that's a very brief sort of synopsis and overview of the zones of regulation program. I use it on a regular basis at school with students, and I use it because it gives everybody a common language. And I can say, go over to the pictures and tell me how you're feeling. Point to the one you're feeling. And so that is if parents want to explore that program, it's awesome, and I use it on a regular basis. And eventually, kids will be able to say to you, yeah, I'm in a good mood, I'm in the green zone, or, oh, my body really hurts, I fell, I banged my knee, I'm sort of in the blue zone, I'm sad, I ripped my jeans, I'm kind of worried. Like, that's the kind of thing that it helps with. So I use this daily, honestly. And in terms of problem solving and resolutions, I use a lot of other programs. If it's something that's out on the yard, I use something called Kelso's Choice, and I actually made this. It's a repurposed twister dial, and there are 8 different options here that you can choose. You can go to another game, you can talk it out, you can share and take turns. These are all different choices that kids can make, and I explain them all to students. That's another, if you want to, Google is my friend. Honestly, I Google everything.
Right.
So,
well, yes, this is the time, this is the time to definitely be Googling everything and having a look what you can find.
Exactly, yeah. Now, if you are having difficulties with kids who are finding self-regulation is a real big challenge and they're melting down and they're fighting a lot, I highly recommend these 2 books. This is an activity book with worksheets that come with it. It's called a Volcano in My Tummy, and it's all about how to recognize and deal with your anger. All these feelings are normal. Kids need to know that. And then this one by Ross Green, Dr. Ross Green. I have seen him at our annual psychology conference. He's got online stuff. You can look him up as well. His name is spelled Green. It's Ross W. Green, and he has an online. He does a log, not a log, but a blog, and offers information on a regular basis. If you've got an explosive kind of hair trigger kind of a kid, somebody who goes from 0 to 60 in no time, and you're kind of going, where did that come from? So
right.
those are all different strategies that I use at school. The other thing, kids love routine. Kids also love adult attention. And one of the biggest things that I do in my room is there is a rule. If you come to my room at recess time and you want to stay and you want to play, you are not allowed to be on a device, because kids can't learn social skills from devices, honestly. They need to practice them. They need that face-to-face interaction. So there are lots and lots of board games in my room. There are puzzles. There's art stuff. They are free to choose something that they want to occupy your time with. One of the really popular games that we have is just ordinary Uno cards. And games are another way that I teach social skills, because you're learning, you got to negotiate, what game are we going to play? You have to figure out the rules. You have to learn to take turns. You have to follow the rules and play the game. And
Right.
you have to learn to be a good winner and a good loser. So these are all skills that you can learn playing games. So if parents can't do the online education thing, or they're struggling with it, that's okay. Life is going to be the way it is. This is a brand new normal. Nobody in the world has experienced it in my lifetime anyway. I have never ever been paid to work from home. This is brand new. I I
Right.
I have never done this before. I always showed up at school and did my thing. And so this
Right.
is very different. So I'm not the only one in this position. Everybody is. So, give yourself
Right. Yeah.
some time. This is a new learning. This is a new skill. And so give yourself some time to figure out your new normal. And that's sort of my main message is give yourself some time to learn this new normal, and then make a routine, because kids really feel secure and safe when there is a routine and they know what to expect. So I've talked a lot.
Right. That's true. True for sure. I know that and the kids can be feeling your stress and your fear and worry. I'm sure they'll be picking up on it. And it's all uncharted territory for us, and there's so much uncertainty. So for us adults, we're having issues trying to keep uh, a positive mindset and not to get sucked into the fear and worry. But
Yep,
it is all very new, and nobody knows, and nobody knows how long we're going to be like this, and this was a huge change to all of our routines. Even
exactly. Yeah,
even if you were working from home, which I already was doing, it's still, now you might have a spouse who's working from home who was never working from home, and then you might have the kids home, and you might have little kids who don't, really don't have a clue what's happening because they are so little. And
yep,
then, older kids who understand, well, might sort of understand, and then of course they would be fearful if they could pick up on your fear. And then you have the teenagers who were struggling with the whole idea of not being able to see their friends,
right, exactly.
yeah, I have a daughter who's 17, and it was a bit of a struggle at first, and being going from being used to going to Starbucks after school to do homework with her friends and hang out with her friends, to then have to be doing it all here and not leaving the house except for a brief walk. So
Right.
yeah, it's quite there's a lot of adapting that has to be done. So
Yeah, exactly. And so in that case, there are a lot of meditation and exercise apps on, if you Google that kind of thing. I know they were using some at school. I'm not sure of the names of them. If you want, I can reach out to teachers and find out. But there is stuff like that that you can use, because there is anxiety. But back to my situation in terms of routines, getting up at the same time, having a shower, putting your makeup on, all gives you a sense of normal. Like the day is going to proceed as it's supposed to be, even though it's a new normal. So
right.
you feel better, you feel more confident. You know, um, when I was home with my small children, I had to have my daily shower, do my hair. I wasn't a big makeup person then because I just didn't have the time. And actually, my skin was pretty good, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But I had to have the kids fed. I had to have the kids dressed. Then the kids played and they watched Sesame Street. I could find Sesame Street any day, anytime. And so I could park the kids long enough to run around and get the beds made, so the house looked half decent. And then, I kind of threw the dishes in the dishwasher, and then we would do something together. That was the routine then. And so
Right.
when you were thinking about what your new normal looks like, you got to take that into account. And the other thing that you can do to sort of help everybody who know what to expect is you can put a schedule on your fridge. You can say, hey, I expect everybody's gonna get dressed, everybody's gonna have breakfast, and the thing can be flexible in terms of time, and the order can change as it needs to. But if you say, okay, by lunchtime, you will have had this much time on your device doing your IXL learning, or reading tumble books. Kids know what to expect, and so everybody calms down because they know this is what I'm going to do next, and then after that it's lunch, and then after that we all go for a walk with the dog, and after that we all come back and I'm allowed to have some time to draw and do some art, or maybe I'm going to water my plants that we are all of a sudden growing because I've never had the opportunity to do that from home before. So like, once you figure out your activities and you sort of talk to the kids and the family and say, okay, like, because there may be limitations in terms of access to devices, and mom needs it through the day and dad needs it at night, and so therefore you really have to schedule in time for students, not necessarily little kids, but time for students.
Yeah.
And so that's a negotiating, that's a family meeting kind of a conversation, and then again, during that you're teaching self-regulation, you're teaching negotiation, you're teaching priority setting. So those are all soft skills that people are learning to really set a higher priority on. In my opinion, I think that the people skills they're more important these days.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. That's something that is being taught more, like you say, just because everybody's home.
Yep.
And trying to manage with everybody home, it can be a challenge as well.
Exactly.
For sure. And I also am finding that well, at this point now, we've been staying home for over, what are we? Or I guess we're coming up, I guess, on a month, kind of. So it's now, like you say, the new normal. I mean, it is, because the initial first week was March break.
Right.
So then that could be all out of sorts. The routine would be, vacation type of routine. And then we had a little period of time to adjust. And then I guess last Monday was when they really rolled out the schooling online for the students in grade school and high school. And so now we have to get some sort of routine going to deal with that. And as
Yep.
well, people working from home and so on. But I think that it's just very important to stay away from getting into the fear. And that's why I think limiting the news is something very important to
And yeah,
do.
see, I like to go on and get updated about once a day, and that's enough for me, because too much and I get,
Exactly.
you can get overwhelmed, and the fear sets in, and you get paranoid about leaving your house and touching everything. At some point, life is going to go back to relatively normal, and so we need to be careful. We need to be flexible too, though, because at some point we're going to be expected to go back to our regular, lives that they were before. So staying with that routine will help that adjustment. It's like at the end of the summer, we always have these exhausted kids the first week or two of school because their bodies are used to staying up late.
Yes.
and sleeping in. Like, it's that same pattern. So routine, clear expectations makes a difference. It also helps with self-regulation with the kids, and just keeping everybody sort of in the green zone, so to speak.
Right. Yes. Yeah, for sure. That's true. And we don't know how long this is going to go on for. We don't know what's going to be, how we're going to get back to some semblance of what was before. But worry is not going to serve anybody anything, well at
No.
all. Worry does nothing except upsets your body and actually affects your immune system. Stress and worry, right? It uh, de- decreases your immunity
Yeah,
if you get
exactly.
stressed and worrying. And so what we need to do is be present and just consider each day and take it one day at a time. Like you say, keep the routines,
Yeah.
limit the news. We just need to be updated in terms of what we are responsible to do, what the government's asked us in terms of the self-isolating, washing hands, and distance, um, physical distancing, and things like
And
that.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes kids are having issues that they're not comfortable talking about with parents or a trusted adult. So I did want to say that
Hmm.
the kids help phone, the government has given extra money to fund the kids help phone, and I've used their resources. They're awesome. And the phone number, they're open 24/7. You can get text service, or you can talk to someone in English or in French, and the number is 1-800-668-6868 if you want to actually talk to somebody, or if it's a student or a child that has access to a device, they can text connect, all capital letters, CONNECT, to 686868, and somebody will go online and text back and forth a message with them and offer them some support that way. And that is
Right.
a really great resource to access, especially if there's a question that you can't seem to help your child with. I always say to kids, if you don't want to talk to me, find a trusted adult that you can talk to. I said that with my own children as well. So just another piece of advice. Parents don't necessarily know the answers all the time, and that's okay. That's
Right.
okay. This is, like I said, this is, like we both said, this is a brand new situation. But even during the school year, if I have kids that have concerns, and the number's posted up in my room so that anybody has access to it. So, and I don't need to know. They can just write it down, or take a picture of it with their phone. Um, there are a
Right.
lot of your local school board, now that things have been rolled out. Talk to your local your child's teacher if you've got a child in school, and ask them if there are other resources that you can access, suggestions or links. And I'm sure teachers would be happy to help. Um, we're still figuring out my role as a behavioral teaching assistant. I'm more support now, and they're still developing the role as far as that's concerned, because they were concerned about the students and the teachers first. So
Yeah.
I will play more of a support, maybe coach the parents kind of role. Like I said, we're still figuring out the details of it, but in terms of programs and access to resources, if there's anybody out there that needs some help, feel free to send me a message on Messenger, and I'm happy to do what I can to help. So
Right. Okay. That's great. Great to know. And we will definitely put those numbers underneath this when I post this video up in the group. I'll
awesome.
definitely share those numbers there because that's the whole side of this whole situation that it's the mental health side of things. And this is a
Not just
lot.
adults, it's the kids too, right?
Yeah,
It's
this is a lot
everybody.
for all of us to be going through.
Yeah.
It's hard to, some days it's hard to navigate, and it's very important to not judge yourself. And because now parents are having to worry about their kids and making sure their kids are doing the learning that's required,
Yep.
while they're still having to worry about their own, whatever their work is, if they're working from home, and their own job, and getting that that done,
Yep.
facing the challenges of the fact that they are now working remotely, and for some people that was never done. This is the first time they've worked outside of an office, so you had to navigate the whole technical issues to start with.
Yep. And I'm in the
So
same boat. In terms
and
of resources and passing things on, and creating
right.
lessons. My lessons at school typically were very low tech, like very low, very hands-on, um, very low tech, because that's my style, and I'm quite
In
comfortable with
person
it.
and
Yep.
in person, right? So
Yep.
yes,
And in
exactly.
person. Yep. Face to face.
And
you know?
that's the whole, and I understand that, of course, the school boards wanted to get this learning up and running, and that was a huge undertaking because this
Yeah.
wasn't anything that was planned, right? It
No,
it
not
it,
at
it
all.
wasn't. It just the first closure was right before March break when they announced that the schools would be closed for 2 weeks, and then that became um, until the beginning of May now. So, and
Yeah.
we don't know. Again, we don't know. So it's a huge undertaking. There's been so many changes. It's actually unbelievable what how many things have changed and how
Yeah.
many things changed so quickly.
Well, just
Which,
going grocery shopping is different. It's a
oh
totally
yes,
different experience than it was before.
yes, totally different, totally, and that's why we're also really going to appreciate the things that we basically took for granted, like being able to run out to the grocery store if you were missing one ingredient for a recipe, and then you'd be in and out in 5-10 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
And that's not a possibility anymore. Now you have to do your grocery shopping and you have to do meal planning and things like that because you're not going to be able to,
Yeah.
to go back.
Yeah.
No
Because I
popping
have
in
a
and out.
grocery store 5 minutes from me, and I'm normally, oh, I forgot such and such. I can literally be there and back by the while the meal is still cooking, type of thing. But not anymore. It's a very different experience. And for the first time
Yes.
ever in my entire life that I can remember, I have not physically gotten together with my family for Easter. That was a big thing.
Oh,
You know, and
yes, right.
my elderly parents couldn't figure out the technology to get the Zoom thing to work. So everybody was there, and we ended up talking to them on the phone while everybody else was on Zoom, just because, I don't know, something updated on their tablet or on their iPad, and they couldn't get it to work. And like, that was very different. And we have a brand new baby that everybody wants to meet. And
That would be
you know,
very interesting too. Having a baby during this period of time.
it was, well, I asked my daughter about that. She said she had the baby at Brampton Civic, and Brampton Civic, she said, was a ghost town. It was, she said, there's nobody there except for staff, and the staff are doing what they can do. And she said, normally the place is really busy. There's people everywhere, and emergency was empty. They went in the emerge doors, and emergency was empty. And they actually had, he was overdue by a week, so they actually she was induced, and so it's a very different experience. Like, I couldn't go to the hospital and see the baby afterwards, like I did with
Right,
two,
exactly.
the other three rather. No, yeah, the other three, because my one of my, and the other thing that we are really concerned about is I have elderly parents. One of my grandsons has a pretty serious heart condition, and so we are being super vigilant and super careful, because God knows I don't want to bring this type of thing home. I
Right.
don't want to get it, and I don't want to pass it on. Not that I would see my parents to pass it on to them, but I was physically caring for my grandsons, right? So there's the hand washing, and
Yes.
right. So
Right.
my husband was doing all the grocery shopping. I was afraid to go anywhere. He was pumping the gas in the car, like normal everyday things you take for granted. Like, I'm gonna
Well,
go bring the
exactly.
gas, you know. Just it life has changed so differently, and it took me a couple of weeks to wrap my brain around it, and I had to really practice a growth mindset. We have that at school, and it's like, okay, it's not social distancing, it's healthy distancing, and it is I'm safe at home instead of I'm stuck at home. You kind of have to tweak your thinking, and remember that this is an active choice that you are making to help people, keep other people safe. And it may be a stranger, it may be a loved one, it may be an acquaintance, it may be a friend. You don't know. But this is all something that we have to kind of tweak our thinking, and then it's a whole lot easier to deal with. And if you are
Right.
having trouble with it, go online, look for resources, look for meditation, look for calming music, look for information if that's what you're up to. Do what you need to do so that you can cope to the best of your ability. Recognizing you're having issues is the first step. And so, back to my zones of regulation, if we can teach these to our kids at a young age, it makes a healthier adult and easier to cope with life in general. And a lot of times we say to kids, these are not skills you need right now. This is a life skill. You're going to need this all your life. You're always going to need to be able to get along with another person. You're always going to need to be able to treat people with courtesy and respect. You're always going to need to know, how am I feeling right now, and how is it affecting the decisions and choices that I'm making? And so, you know, we teach this stuff at school. It makes life better all of your life. It's a skill. So it's, I'm pretty
Definitely.
passionate about it. I guess you can tell.
Yeah, no,
But
no.
I
And
figure if you get them young and you teach them young, then life is easier as they get older. And I have seen so many kids who were regulars in my room and on my caseload who grew up with a little time, some skills, and a little practice. And they become leaders in the school, and then you call on them and you say, okay, like, connect with so-and-so for me and teach them how to do this because you're really good at it. And it makes such a difference. You know, that's the other thing I was going to say. If you've got older kids who can work with younger kids, let them be a teacher as long as as long as they both want it. For instance, when my little kids were young, and I was taken to get them to get a haircut, there's a little bit of fear. Like, does that hurt? You know, they're cutting my hair. They're going to touch my body. Does that hurt? And so I always had my oldest child go first, or if it was my oldest child, I would get my hair cut and they would watch, so that they know what to expect. See, it's back to
Right.
the routine. They know what to expect. Makes you feel safer. So yeah, that it just
Yeah.
makes life easier, you know, if you
I
teach
think,
these kids at a young age.
right. And I think that's an important concept as well, that like you say, the kids just want to feel safe, and they feel safe when they know what to expect and they have a solid routine. And yeah, yeah. And again, we can't judge ourselves. We have to give ourselves grace in this situation that we're in.
Yep,
And you know, you are doing the best you can.
exactly, because this is everybody's new normal, and
Hmm.
I think people forget that. They think,
Yes.
I have to adjust, and I have to adjust now, and what's wrong with me because I'm not adjusting. There's also, I was reading online, and it was an important article. I thought, okay, yeah, I understand how I'm feeling now. I'm grieving the loss of my freedom to a certain extent, because
Right.
um, I can't get up and go and get in my car and go to McDonald's and sit in there and watch my kids in the play place and you know and have a fun afternoon with my children, or a fun hour, or get out of the house and have my children and I get some time and they get some time and everybody gets a bit of space from each other. I can't do that anymore. I can't get in my car and go for a coffee with my friend. I can't go shopping and hang out at the mall and just look at
No.
all what's new for spring in the stores. Like,
Yeah.
it's very different,
There's
you
a
know?
lot, and I did see that article as well, talking about the grieving, that we're really going through grief because we've lost our old life, which we
Yep.
have. But the important thing is, again, to look and see, you know, look into yourself inside, look inside, and decide, are you happy with the way you were living your life before? Maybe there's some changes that you'd like to make, and this is the time to start taking some baby steps to make changes for that you will carry on in whatever our new normal becomes as we come out of this.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and like you were saying about meditation and things like that, there's so many online resources and so many people offering free webinars and
Yep.
all kinds of free information from people renowned, who are renowned in the field of you know, psychology and neuroscience and things like that. And
Now is the time to take advantage of it, because now you have the time. Quite
it
literally, you
is,
have the time.
it is, yes, yeah, for sure. So that's another thing that people can do. And I think everybody that I've spoken to has really said that meditation is something that really is helping them get
Yep.
through these
I
days.
believe it.
And meditation, and then also some breathing exercises, which I've had a few people online on that I've interviewed that have given some breathing exercises, but deep breathing exercise is also something
Yeah,
that's
because
helping
you
you.
get oxygen to your body, it calms your body. It calms things down. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah, I actually teach breathe with kids who have issues getting angry very quickly. I do the zones of regulation. We do breathing exercises because I've always said to the kids, if you're in fight or flight, you can't think and make good decisions. Your body, so you need to deep breathe, so your body, your brain gets extra oxygen. So then you're calm, you can feel the difference, and then you can think through the problem better. So same idea.
And it's
It
exactly the same for adults. Yeah, exactly the same.
That's
Yeah.
why I like to teach the kids the skills young. And
Well,
so the school that I deal with, that I'm at, is a kindergarten to grade 8. So pretty heavily based in the primary grades. A lot of the students that I work with on a regular basis. So it's pretty interesting.
yeah,
Um,
that would be very
One last
helpful
thing
too.
that I wanted to just touch on very briefly, if
Yes.
anybody's having children with who are fighting amongst themselves, which is normal, there you can also Google restorative mindset, and this is a problem-solving set of questions. There's a lot of research done. They've written books about peaceful classrooms and circles, and including these questions in problem solving. And there's a process, and it works. So I don't want to get into it in great detail, but restorative practices, if you look up restorative practices on Google, it's another resource that if you've got kids who are, it helps them talk through the problem. And the other thing is everybody feels heard, and then they problem solve together. And you know, the person who has done the harm and the person who has been harmed, and they come together and kind of have a conversation, and the person who's been harmed can say what they're looking for in terms of this is going to make it better, and the other person who's done the harm can talk about what they have learned from the situation and what they're going to do differently next time. And they need to listen to the person that's been harmed, because then they really get, okay, I hurt this person, and I understand now how I hurt this person. So
Right.
restorative justice or restorative practices rather, is pretty important at school, and could be something that parents might want to look into at home. There are a lot of resources online too.
Okay. All
I
right.
said
I will.
Google is your friend.
Well, I'll put the information underneath the interview as
That's
well. But
awesome.
that's great because I could see um, if kids are fighting at home and getting upset, and like I say, the parents are also trying to do their own work, and
Exactly.
you would get, you know, stressed out. The parents would be stressed out and all, and be losing their patience too. So
Yeah.
that definitely helps. Yeah, that helps. So thank you, Heather. That was
You're very
a
welcome. Thank you
lot
for
of it,
having me.
a lot of information for the you know, parents with kids at home, and dealing with the you know, this new normal, which is, it's a huge change for the kids not to go to school as well. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for all your time, and I
Oh, you're
will
very welcome.
definitely
Thank
put
you
the
for having me.
information underneath. And
Awesome.
yeah, all right. Thank you. And everybody, bye for now. We'll see you next time.
Bye.